And the worst part is people are fucking buying real estate in these places. I mean, that's just the dumbest shit ever. The dumbest. Did I say it was dumb? No, that's not strong enough. Super meta, immaculately dumb. You know, it's
This is awkward. Listen, I've got a lot of respect for Mark Cuban. I think he's a super sharp guy, done really well for himself, does really well in the tech industry, and he actually has a lot of great points that he's going to make in this video that still have me very confident, in fact, extremely confident in the Upland Metaverse. Let's jump right into these points.
there's no rhyme or reason to it yet. Now, will there be? I don't think it's this. It's going to be hard to standardize things and to make it interoperable, at least for the foreseeable future.
All right, so standardization and interoperability are some of Mark Cuban's key concerns about the metaverse. Now, we have recently received a lot of news about this. We just talked about OMA 3. And in fact, on the homepage of OMA 3's website, which is the Open Metaverse Alliance, bringing all the metaverses together, which Upland is a key starter of Open Metaverse Alliance. Look at this. The 3 guiding principles: interoperability, standardization, and ownership. The exact key concerns that Mark Cuban addressed is already being thought out and worked at by the Upland team. Again, every point he mentions here is just like making me actually more confident in the land that I've bought in the Upland Metaverse. So what's the next big thing that Mark Cuban is concerned about when it comes to a metaverse being successful? Let's jump right into this clip.
The greatest takeaway now that I think about it,
The greatest
if you look
takeaway.
across just general business and you look across crypto, Web3, if you want to call it that, metaverse, it all comes down to community. Where can you create community and what's the impact of that community? Your community.
It all comes down to community. That is exactly right. And let's talk about the communities of some of the competitors. Let's actually first talk about when Mark Cuban is talking about which metaverses. I'm pretty sure Mark Cuban doesn't even know that Upland exists yet, and I think he'll be pretty dumbfounded when he realizes a lot of this already exists. Let's look at this. So I found this other clip where Mark Cuban is talking at SXSW, South by Southwest, about metaverses and specifically buying land in the metaverse.
Becoming part of a metaverse, the hard part is sustaining participation. So you can go to Decentraland and buy real estate and lose all your money. You can go to Sandbox and buy real estate and probably lose all your money.
I mean, that's exactly what I've been saying in many of my videos. Let's jump right into what I've talked about in other videos right here. So Mark Cuban just talked about you're going to lose all your money in Decentraland. You're going to lose all your money in Sandbox. Why do I think he's saying that? Because of community. The biggest takeaway he's telling us is it's about community. Look at the users in the last 30 days right here on Decentraland. 597 users actually playing the game. There's no community. Only 2,000 total transactions. Let's look at the Sandbox. Okay, a lot more than that. There's almost 10,000, but again, only 23,000 transactions in an entire 30-day period. Now, let's look at Upland. 212,000 users. We're talking over 20x to 100x what these other metaverses are experiencing. And look at the transactions. Over 7 million actual transactions, the community engaging with each other and actually making things happen. I do not know why Sandbox and Decentraland continue to be hyped as the metaverse. And again, this is why I think there's all this negative talk about the metaverse, because for whatever reason, these are the most hyped. Everybody's talking about it just because they were the first ones to come up with a cool idea and create a crypto token that people are rallying behind, putting a lot of money in, And people like Mark Cuban and his associates have put a lot of money into those types of projects and maybe made some money or lost a lot of money with the downturn of the crypto market. Whereas Upland, it's not tied to a coin on an exchange or a token on an exchange, continues to perform well regardless of the bear market, is still doing pretty dang good when it should be failing like all these other projects. You heard it. Mark Cuban said it. The greatest takeaway was and is for him community. It's all about community. Upland clearly has the greatest community when it comes to the metaverse space. Upland is killing it. All of the competition, having all sorts of community events. There's two more great points that Mark Cuban makes about what will make a successful metaverse. Let's talk about these. They, again, both look amazing for what Upland is actually doing.
It's not even as good as a URL or, an ENS, because there's unlimited volumes that you can create. Now, after you create a community, not before, but after you create a community, then you can find places, depending on how that community works, that can have perceived value because of access or whatever, right?
So, again, he's talking about like metaverses like Decentraland and Sandbox, where it's kind of an alien world. You don't know how much land they can create. You don't know where it can go. Perceived value. Upland is tied to the real world. We all know what the world is. We all know how much land is in the world. We can wrap our minds around the value of owning a real world building. So if you own a digital building that's tied to what the real world represents, we immediately can tie perceived value. This was the biggest reason why I was all in on Upland as a metaverse over these other ones in the first place. It's not an alien world. I understand the perceived value, and I understand how I can convince my friends why owning the Empire State Building or owning Coit Tower or owning the Statue of Liberty in the Upland metaverse has perceived value, because it's an attractive thing that we already have value that you can create utility in, which brings us to the last point Mark Cuban talks about.
You would say the other side metaverse, because it started with community with the Bored Apes, would be better than like the Sandbox, who's just trying to sell the land.
Look, I'm an investor when you go through those guys, right? And I still thought it was dumb to do the real estate. Now, it was great money for them, right? But that wasn't based off of utility.
It needs to all be based off of utility. Upland truly, in my mind, is the utility king right now, bringing more utility to NFTs than almost any other project out there. We're talking about cars with odometer readings on them that receive damage and then need to be repaired. I mean, when we're talking about NFT utility and experiences, Upland truly is killing it right now. Who's actually doing it better? Who actually has a product? I hear a lot of people talking about, NFLPA legits and Upland don't have a lot of utility yet. Name another sports blockchain game that actually has utility around sports. Of course, it has to start with the collectibles. Of course, in Upland, it has to start with the buildings that we have, and then they add utility on top. This is why I don't think it's dumb. This is why I don't think buying land is the dumbest shit ever. I think it's actually really smart if you find a metaverse with a community, building interoperability and standards, all the things Mark Cuban talked about. It's perceived value, and they're making all the right moves. Again, this does not make me scared. This does not make me want to get all my money out of Upland. This actually made me more confident, because every point other than him saying buying land in the metaverse is the dumbest shit ever, every point he talked about that would make it a smart thing, Upland is already doing. And they're doing it right. What are your thoughts? Please let me know in the comments. I'm really curious to get feedback from the community on this one. I know there might be a lot of fear around this. However, I personally am still feeling confident. Upland's making amazing moves. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace out.